Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, getting started for the early Thursday morning over here from a very bright and sunny Helsinki, Finland. Too fucking hot for myself because I've been sweating ever since like 2 a.m. and now up for the day. Anyways, plenty to talk about today as Bitcoin taking out the short-term pivot below 95.50 as we saw on stream yesterday, that initiating the move to the 92.50-ish pivot, of which Bitcoin played out a very small and anemic bounce, and now here we are where we are. And that means that the short and medium-term time frame is actually going to be fun once again as we have new things to talk about. Bitcoin moving, Bitcoin on the move, and that means opportunity. Anyways, let's go put the interest on the Krown Chain application over here, which can be found at app.krownjourney.net. Definitely check it out if you haven't checked it out in a while, because there's been a lot of new updates, of which the most recent one is this new indicators tab right here. It's going to be built out and beautified as time goes on, but I'm really looking forward to doing like a daily look on this once we gather more data. In fact, we actually are data mining for the last 4 years of price action on Bitcoin history to come up with these, and I'm really looking forward to where this kind of evolves into over time. So keep an eye out for that. I'll go back to the dashboard right here, but also keep an eye out for the open interest. So we've been slowly but surely seeing Bitcoin increase the open interest above that critical level at 7.5 billion with a B, of course, which was a break of the range on what we've been seeing during this consolidation between about 9,000 and 10,000, if you want to call it that, getting rid of them wicks. Anyways, now Bitcoin kind of taking a leap above that range, while price action moving to the downside of the long-term range is really going to actually offer up a nice little bias boner for myself going into the trading day, I suppose you could say. Anyways, other than that, Bitcoin dominance is exactly where it was yesterday, essentially. And actually, we should take a look at Bitcoin dominance today, just because. Some altcoins today, just because there's probably some interesting things going on there, especially if Bitcoin's kind of hinting at a move right now. We should see it reflected in the altcoins as well. Fear and greed index coming down to a 43 from a 50 read, so a little bit fearful after a nice $500-$600 dump. And what else was I going to say? Actually might be on Twitch today if you are interested. It's going to be talking a little bit about Bitcoin, I suppose, but more importantly, getting down and dirty into the gaming, of which I'll also be on my gaming channel as well, which you can find at Total Krown. I'll have a link in the comment section below. Of course, this is really only for you, like if you're you're interested in strategy games or just gaming in general, or the Total War series, then yeah, let's hang out. But if not, it's all good. Not going to be it's all good. I feel like it's extortion or something. Well, no, man, don't feel obligated to go. Anyways, let's go check out some price action over here. Starting off with CMEs for Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin coming all the way down to the 55 exponential moving average on the daily. And yes, I do think that we are going to bounce here, as we spoke about yesterday. So let me actually kind of follow up on yesterday's analysis. So yesterday we left each other off once Bitcoin was creating this massive red dildo right here, the start of the red dildo party, closing below 95.50 pivot on stream. That technically initiated the next move down to 92.50, of which Bitcoin played out about a $200 bounce back up to the 200 simple moving average right here, getting rejected, and then nice little slide down to the 377. We didn't talk about the second part if Bitcoin breaks 92, or sorry, yes, we did talk about the second part if Bitcoin breaks 92.50. Just didn't think it was going to happen all on the same day, really, because, well, Bitcoin's not really been doing fuck all recently, so fair enough. Should be happy that it's actually moving right now. But as it looks, we did come down to the 377. Yes, actually a wick lower, about $100 lower than where I was looking towards, but again, on a closing basis, still holding the 90.50-ish pivot for the long-term range, which does mark out the bottom side support of this as an ascending triangle. So technically speaking, the Bullahs still technically have a potential ascending triangle in the works here. Do I think that this works as an ascending triangle? No, I actually don't anymore. This coming back down below, especially 92.50, was not indicative of anything resembling health and fitness, or the picture of it, that's for sure. And while I do think that Bitcoin's likely to bounce a little bit from here, maybe even back above 92.50 pivot, maybe even initiate another run back up to 9,500-ish region, as long as we are below 9,700 on a 4-hour closure, or if we're looking at a daily or 12-hour, it would be Yeah, actually 9,700 as well. Or even if you want to be more aggressive at 9,550, the same pivot from yesterday, it is pressure down here as momentum oscillators once again shift to the downside after rejecting getting out of the bullish control zone. As you can see right here on the daily Stokes, not good. We will be hinting at across to the downside if Bitcoin closes today's daily low anywhere below 9,250, the same area as yesterday. So I do think that Bitcoin is probably going to play out some bounces, probably back up to 9,250 and maybe even a little bit higher than that. But again, this next bounce is going to be very much telling as to the strength or weakness, maybe more better said, on Bitcoin right now. So, I really want to stress this point. I do think that Bitcoin can put in some more time going sideways here, just playing out this range between the 55 and the 10 simple. But overall, this is taking on a different interpretation as, again, open interest rising another 200 million essentially from a few days ago, breaking that, breaking back down from 9,700, putting in a lower high. And now we have a series of lower highs. There's your high, lower high, and low. And perhaps we're even working on a lower low right here. I wouldn't necessarily call this one a lower low. But we are in the process of perhaps reversing, getting our first major reversal of trend here. Looking at daily Joule, it is potentially lining up for a haughtier short signal. The problem with that one is that I'm not, even though I do think that this is going to err the probabilities on the side of the downside, it doesn't imply. I don't think that happens today. I think that it's likely we probably play out another small bounce and then come back maybe tomorrow, maybe early next week, and get resolution on this. Keep in mind that the volume signature on this formation as a whole is getting very mature within this region. It will be about 75% full in the next few days. We are on the 25th day of June, by the way, and I'd say somewhere around the 27th, 28th, maybe even 1st of July is where I'd really look for a breakout from this formation. Again, formation bottom side support going to be, if you want to be super conservative on it, I would say 8,900, the wick to the downside that we got on 14th of June. To the upside now, 9,900 is still very much relevant for the more conservative traders, but the more aggressive traders probably going to be using this as your last prior lower high. 9,700, as long as below there, it is still pressured down as well. But if Bitcoin can get back above there, then that would be more indicative of upside strength, obviously. However, I just don't like the way that it's come back down to test this area multiple times. Usually don't get that many times, especially this close to the last low. And with time kind of running out on this one, or at least suggesting that, statistically speaking, we're very likely to get a breakout soon, alongside historical volatility percentile, which, remember, is still at those incredibly crushed levels. It is starting to pick up a little bit here, but we're still in single digits, I believe. Yes, yesterday printed a 4. This is by far now the most aggressive contraction phase. I wouldn't, sorry, not even contraction phase, although we are in one, a greater one going all the way back to March, as you can see right here, which is probably going to get our next target on this trend line for historical volatility percentile. I'd look for that, I'd look for a spike up there to kind of be demonstrative of the next local high or next local low, depending upon which way that Bitcoin breaks. But more importantly, looking at this right here, what's the terminology that I'm looking for? It's aggressively low. it's like the wrong terminology. But basically, when historical volatility percentile is this low, I mean, we don't really have anything historically to go off of because we've never seen it this low for this long. This is 2 weeks in running now. Last time that we were this low, but for about a week's period, going from this one, a little bit over a week right here, was precipitated the whole move from 10,300. All the way down to 65, I believe it was 64, which was a 38.35% retracement. And that really depends where you take that retracement from. Do you take it from the breakdown point, or do you take it from the last prior high? You could make an argument that it's actually more appropriate to do it from the last higher high, or the last prior high, because that's when the contraction phase really did start to begin. Anyways, time before that, I mean, this is not really comparable anymore, even though it was quite an aggressive contraction phase. But again, that sort of signature does produce a reversal like you see right here in the formation of an ascending triangle. Last time before that we have something even remotely similar was end of 2018. Again, a very aggressive and long, drawn out contraction phase, getting the move from about 6,300 down to 3,100, 52% retracement. Other than that, we'd have to go back, years really to get something similar. Maybe right here, actually, this one coming to the upside. So again, this one, precipitating the move all the way from $430 to, well, I guess that's going to go onwards and upwards, to 20,000 eventually, I suppose. But you get my point, is that whenever we see something this aggressive, we're setting up for either a phenomenal move to the upside or a phenomenal dump to the downside. Dumps to the downside are a little bit less tested, as we do see that it's usually producing somewhere between 30 or 35 to 50% retracement. I think it has more to do with the overall macro trend there, but obviously if you get that signal in a downtrend or a downtrend continuation, then it's going to be more or implied more. Whereas if it's a reversal from a last prior bull market, then probably going to be more along the 30% read. But looking at this right here, the long-term areas are still very much the same. So I'm still looking for a 12-hour dildo close or daily below 90.50 or a wick below this last prior 8,900 wick right here. And then yes, I would constitute that as a breakdown. And there's very likely going to be bounces along the way. I'd actually be looking for a nice bounce right around 85.50ish region. This last prior spike low right here, probably gonna produce at least a short-term bounce. And who knows? Maybe that bounce gets back above the 92.50 pivot, and at that point, maybe we have something new going on. But as far as the terms of fake outs go, Bitcoin, whenever it does put in these long-term consolidations, which this one's been going ever since early May now, so it's almost 2 months mature now, which is very relevant to Bitcoin's history. It likes to play out its long-term reversal consolidations between 2 and 3 months, typically speaking. And they're usually very, 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 very dependable for big bad moves, meaning that it's very unlikely that you get a fake out. Moi moi, Elsa's going to the gym, I think, and so no more kitchen shit. Anyways, I do think that we'd have a bounce around here. Also, this is going to be the 200 exponential moving average on the daily. Also think that that area probably fails, and then we'd head down to the 382, play out another bounce at 81.50. Very likely same thing there. I do think that Bitcoin would have a chance to break, a chance to reverse at the 0.5 at 7,500. This is a good area historically speaking, and it would actually be quite healthy if Bitcoin did reverse there. Same thing with the 618 as well, but that's where the macro changes for me. Below the 618, I do look for a retest of below 6,000. I'll put it that way. We'll get to that bridge when we cross it, I suppose. But again, at the end of the day, it's not broken yet, so I don't think that this is going to be happening. I don't think it's going to be happening today. Very, very unlikely. And can I be wrong about this? Yes, absolutely. Most importantly, that's why I use these triggers over here. This is why I love to say I do not trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis, and technical analysis just going level by level here. Nothing too sophisticated or anything like that. Using relatively simplistic tools. I mean, that's mostly how I trade. I feel like probably anyone could learn how to do it, within like a couple months. It's just we seem to complicate things with all sorts of shit, man. But a nice trading journal, good companion for that endeavor. Anyways, what else do I want to say? While we're here, let's go to the 12-hour and let's see what the 12-hour is printing. 12-hour again, playing on the downside of the range. Do I think that has enough momentum to break to the downside here? Probably not. Fuck. Elsa's at the door. 1 second, guys. I'll be back in just 1 second. Yeah? Hello? How unprofessional, Elsa. Thanks for bringing your key. How good to see you. Woman, can't live with them and can't live with them, actually. Okay, cool. So, all right. So now that she's gone, fuck her, and let's go back to Bitcoin land. Looking at a 4-hour right here, getting down and dirty into the lower term time frames. Do we have potential regular bullish divergence forming? Yeah, potentially. If Bitcoin can put in a local low here and confirm it, which that would also be along the side of bouncing off this level. How would it confirm a local low here? A little bit difficult on this one. There's not like a super good way of doing it. I suppose you could still use this blue box, but then that's like about $100 away from where we are right now. So it's not all that helpful. I'd really want to see something kind of like grind out a little bit here. If it is going to put in a local low, I don't think it's just going to do something like this and then pop back up. And then I look for a test of wherever the 21 is at that point. and then come back after that. And that's potentially, well, if Bitcoin puts another reversal there, there's your next lower high. And that's the next, probably the next actionable one. Looking at the 4-hour Stokes or 4-hour momentum oscillators, we're going to see 4-hour Stokes get all the way down there. They're going to stay to the downside. As long as Bitcoin's below 9120, so it actually looks like it's probably, it looks like it's probably going to close around there. 2 hours and 37 minutes left to go, so that's going to be quite some time. So, but again, kind of playing it in the narrative that Bitcoin likely plays out another bounce here. What about a 3-hour? Potential same thing forming as well, however, not close to confirming a local low. And actually, would this be bullish divergence? No, it wouldn't, because it wouldn't even be on a new low if it closed right here. We need to close somewhere below. Yeah, this one's actually not going to produce it because we're already below the last prior spike. And if Bitcoin price action goes even lower, then I would imagine it would go with it, of course. 3-hour Stokes going to be popping up as well. So it does look to me like, again, likely plays out a nice little small bounce here, maybe all the way back up to like 94, maybe even 9,500. But as long as it's below this prior high, 9,700, especially on those higher term timeframes, and if you want to be more aggressive, 9,550. Well, it's just another lower high, man. Looking at a 2-hour, same thing. 2-hour Stokes, very, 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 very snaked up down there. However, 2-hour RSI, no divergences to be found. I'm sure that someone's going to say well, no, you can't even make that argument because it's not even on a lower low. So you fucked, Bullahs. No, I still think that we actually do get a bounce here. Hourly Stokes going to be crossing the upside here too, and so all these time frames will likely see the hourly Stokes pop up. We're just not forming any divergences right now, so the bounce probably going to be relatively small, and then maybe retest the lows, and then if you get some divergence, I'd look for a bigger bounce based off that. But Bitcoin's looking a little bit weak down here. I'm curious to see how traditional markets are doing right now comparatively, because that is going to be a big bias boner or buster for myself, as we got some pretty nasty bearish divergence going on NASDAQ futures right here, because if traditional markets do come down quite a bit, I'd imagine Bitcoin's going to get hammered significantly more. Looking at the daily right here, yeah, I do think that we're setting up for a test at the very least of 9,800 even. I would look for another small bounce there. The question is, does that bounce get sold into or not? Because the next stop is likely all the way down here. You can see a nice horizontal come. Oh, I guess I already have it plotted in there. Oh, it's the same blue box correlated with the 55. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Good confluence there, as that would be my next target if Bitcoin does break back down below this, or NASDAQ breaks back down below this level. Bad slip of the tongue. Also, for those who have the Jewel, keep an eye on that one, as it does look like it's lining up. Daily Stokes going to cross down as well. Daily RSI giving some bearish divergence, so you got a lot of things suggesting at least 9,800. If 9,800 does get broken to the downside, then yes, I would look for extension another $400 down to 9,400, and very likely a bounce there. See how that would kind of shape up the weekly. Weekly starting to look a little bit more like a rejection. So we did get new all-time highs this week, as we spoke about. But could this fuck up the monthly close and make me look for a pullback coming into next month? Depends where we close it. Anywhere above 9,800, and no, I would actually still be bullish coming into July and August, or I should say July. I don't know about August, but any close below 9,800 is starting to get a little bit questionable for a greater pullback, maybe back down below 9,000 a little bit. Would that make me overall super bearish or anything? No, I'm not. I wouldn't be there just yet. As long as this thing's above, especially about 9,000, I don't really think that that's even a consideration. Could even use the 200 simple and 200 exponential average, and they'll probably be around that point if it were to come down and test it. So I like to keep an eye on that one. Let's go check out E-mini futures for SPY as well. And yeah, this one looking significantly weaker than NASDAQ futures, as you can see, kind of just gliding along. Didn't even make a higher high alongside NASDAQ on that last run up earlier this week. A little bit of a more difficult chart here, though. I do think that it probably comes back down a little bit below 3,000, down to 2980-ish region. Probably another small bounce there. It's in a difficult place here. Below 2923 and 3/4. Yes, I look for a greater pullback, significantly lower, down to 2750-ish region, maybe even a little bit lower than that. 270 base perhaps. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself right here. ahead of myself, Jesus Christ, and I'm also schizophrenic apparently as well. Daily Stoch's going to be crossing the downside, and this is also considered a rejection of the bullish control zone, which to me, control zones for the Stochs in traditional markets are actually a lot more important than crosses or anything else like that. Daily Jewel, it doesn't look all that healthy. Daily RSI, not really doing anything, or not really giving it an obvious signal there. I mean, maybe there's some slight bearish divergence, I suppose, between this point and this point. I think that we did close on a slightly higher high. No, it wasn't. It was not a higher high. Yeah, it was. Okay, so yeah, it's not even present there, but momentum also is starting to turn down a little bit. Monthly is going to be closing not in the best position, but I'll still wait. I think we have another 1, 2, 3 days left in the trading month for traditional markets. So still a lot can happen there. I think that the monthly closure is going to really reveal the long-term direction. But for right now, short term, I would be looking for a test of that downside, as we just spoke about. And how does that hold up for Bitcoin long term, or Bitcoin like at all? Well, Bitcoin, looking at the monthly, it's still not very problematic here from the monthly perspective. Let's see though, what would be needed to cross below the exponential on the RSI? Keep in mind though that don't really have, or would we have bearish divergence between this point and this point? Actually, we would, closing at 93.27 and 85. This one closed 94.46. So yes, actually, it technically would. It wouldn't be all that aggressive, but it would imply a move likely down to the low 8,000 region, at least 8,100. But again, remains to be seen until the end of the month. I would like to see, what do we have here? Okay, where is... all right, so do I want to use that? No, I want to use... okay, there we go. Okay, so where is the exponential? It is literally right at 55.25. Okay, so let's see what price action would be correlated with that. Okay, so if we close below, if we close this monthly below 9,000, we will lose the exponential on that. Interesting. Okay, very interesting. Just playing around with numbers here, but overall, I think I'll kind of leave the monthly talk and the long-term talk for the weekend, just because right now there's plenty to talk about in the lower-term timeframes. Anyways, let's see, how long has this video been? Already 20 minutes. Let's go look at probabilities now. So let's keep in mind that now, since we're a lot closer to the downside of the range, of course, the downside resolution of the range. That is, I do want to make sure. That we get the most relevant points for right now. So let's put on our lovely, hey, where am I? There they are. Okay, cool. So what I'll do for this one is I'm actually going to use the spike low for June 14th at 8,900, because below there, it's, to me, that's very indicative of continuation to the low 8,000s at the very least. Using 90.50 as a closure, obviously it's going to be a lot higher of a percentage probability, but I'd rather go for the more aggressive one here, just because I'm curious what the actual probability of like a realistic resolution is today. For the upside, 92.50 does get the short-term bounce and very likely initiates a move, another couple $100 higher to 94.50. But as long as it's below 95.50ish region, it's still just a set of lower highs. So what I'll do here is I will use 92.50. At first, but keep in mind that this is not the same relevance as the downside probability. The above target probability is only correlated with a short-term bounce above 95.50, even still not even long-term. It's just medium-term at that point. And then realistically, the long-term area would be 9,900. So as you can see right here, 92.50, 40% chance closing above today. That's obviously very high. Downside probability though is deceptively high as well. So I think a lot of the time people see this and they just they think that 40% that's not all that much. No, that means anything above 16% is it's likely enough to plan for it. I'll put it that way. And the downside, obviously 28.65% is very high. On a 12-hour closure, the next 12-hour closure coming in 6 hours and 28 minutes, 38% versus 18.5%, 19% right now. I'm using futures. Let's go. Let's do current. The rings on the futures, by the way, were flat. Okay, there we go. Okay, so current actually much more in favor of a bounce here. Okay, this one's pretty fucking high. This one's kind of hard to ignore. 55% probability to bounce back above that target at 9250ish region. Probably initiate that next continuation. For the very short term. To the downside, as we just said, 9.39. That's a blowout in terms of the upside bounce. Same thing on the daily, 51.5% versus 19.25. It looks like. So going back into it right here, is it likely that Bitcoin's going to bounce here? Yes, I do think so. It's just for the Bullahs out there, you better start praying to Bullah Jesus, because if you put in another lower high, especially below 95.50, that's probably going to be the dagger. And I very rarely use more aggressive terminology like that, but I do think that it's warranted right here. Obviously, we have a 2-day closing, not tonight, but tomorrow night. So as long as we're below the 21, it is pressure down as well. And I think that the 2-day range also gets things relatively well as well. So depending upon how Bitcoin pivots from where we are right now, is going to be very revealing of where Bitcoin's going. And what I mean by that is this a lower high, or is this some sort of like sloppy washout accumulation signature right here? You can make the argument for both, actually, as it stands right now. As long as Bitcoin is essentially closing, especially 2-day dildos above the 21 exponential moving average, we will still have higher lows here, which will keep that sort of more Bullah-ish inspired look at things alive. But the second that we close on a lower low, this is a lower high, then we got a lower low. We actually have a trend reversal confirmed, because that was now 3 going on now, getting your high right here, lower high right here, third lower high right here, plus a lower low on top of that. That's good enough for me. That also obviously imply a move back down below the 200 simple right here at 8850ish region, which long term for Bitcoin, the 2-day 200 simple, this white moving average is what I'm referring to, has been a pretty damn good indicator of where Bitcoin is in the macro scale. Is it above or below, and what is the slope? So if you can match both the slope with Bitcoin's positioning around that major moving average, you usually get the long-term moves, and it tells you right on over here, this is a major bull trap. Tells you right on over here, this is your major reversal, and keeps you long the whole way through that next few years. Same thing in 2018 when Bitcoin switched up. Well, everyone was bullish at the 6,000 level, getting ready for a nice 50% retracement. And then more recently, back to the upside in June 2019, and it's actually remained the whole way through. So it's not perfect, of course, and I mean that also includes a pretty fucking massive dump right here, so I'm not sure how much I actually even trust that. But if you so fair enough, actually, but it is starting to, more importantly, it's starting to really lose its slope here. And so the game that we get to play right now is are we looking at distribution or reaccumulation? Well, I'd say that last little tumble back down below 95.50 really put a lot of fuel in the distribution, in the case for distribution. Before that, the ascending triangle was the main interpretation of what we're looking at right now, and you can still make that interpretation. Yes, it's just you don't really see ascending triangles operate like this, where you get multiple chances, or I mean, you usually get multiple chances to buy the low. You usually get 3, but coming down for a 4th time right here as the formation very much matures itself, not the best sign at all. In fact, very reminiscent of the high that was put in about a year ago in 14,000. And now that Bitcoin's kind of doing something more like this, where we're getting these series of lower highs, that's when it becomes very problematic, as now we have potentially a downtrend emerging. And that's really all that everything comes down to right now. Even though, like I said, I do think that Bitcoin's going to play out a bounce here. I do think it's going to bounce back above 92.50 if probabilities or anything to go off of, which they seem to get things quite well. Then it can play the same range that we saw, that we've been seeing ever since 11th of June, by the way. But overall, as you can see, this trend line right here governing the lower highs gonna very likely come into play, and that will become more and more aggressive as as time transpires. And Bitcoin, floats through here aimlessly. So there is going to be resolution dates very much implied relatively soon, not just from historical volatility percentile, but also volume signature. And then momentum also is kind of turning with everything does definitely not paint the most Bullah-ish picture of all time. I should also say that looking at the 2-day, 2-day Stokes are down. 3-day Stokes also going to be down as well. And remember, we were postulating this before as well. So we're looking for signatures on the daily historical volatility percentile reads. And then also their correlation with momentum oscillators like weekly stochastics read. And what do we see right here? We actually see something very interesting. Whenever Bitcoin stokes get in and above the critical zone for the Bullahs side, and they cross to the downside, even in macro uptrends. And when I say macro uptrends, I'm talking about shit like this where Bitcoin goes. This is like actual moon type shit. 9,000% from summer of 2015 to basically 2018. Even during those, when we get in the critical zone and play out these downs right here, these downs actually correlate with areas of low volatility as well, by the way, on the on the last high to next low. And these are all pretty massive retracements, even though the general market was bullish. So that's a 40% retracement right there based off that signal. We have another one right here going for 36%. We have another one right here going for 34.25%. We have another one right here going for 37 or 38% almost. We have another one right here, and I'm just referencing from the top of the screen right there in case you're wondering, going for 37.5%. We have another one right here going for 42.75%, and then the high at 20,000. You probably don't want me to measure that one out. So Bitcoin's bullish, and it's going to be going to the moon, and it's just a moon that's in the center of the earth. And well, maybe it was all just an exit scam for Bitcoin. Who knows? But I don't really think, I do think that conversation comes into talk if Bitcoin goes back down below, especially 5,000. But we're pretty far away from that right now. I think I should refrain from saying anything else before I piss too many people off. And yeah, that's kind of what we're doing right now. So should we play with numbers, sir? Hello, sir. Have some numbers in your life. This is 30%, 33.75%. That puts you at 6,900. That was a 618 fib retracement, if you remember, and that's kind of where my personal macro changes as well. Below that area, I get extremely bearish long term. Just like above 11,500, I get extremely bullish long term. Let's take 40% off. 62. That would put us down around the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. That's pretty consistent with those signatures from before. On the upper end, we've seen more deep retracements to the tune of like 50%, and that's actually down at your prior low right there. That would look quite nasty if that were to happen, because the chart really looks something like this. And if it really does look something like this, then what do we have for the last few years? We have the dead heartbeat of death. Let's go look at some shitcoins. How are they going to be doing if Bitcoin breaks down here? I'd imagine not too well. So I want to see that some are like maybe very close to resistance. No, this looks bullish. Huh. Interesting. This is the problem with trading altcoins. This looks very obviously bullish. I mean, this is an ascending triangle, or if you want to call it just higher highs and higher lows, if you want to call it looking good, I'd say all those things. Even momentum oscillators look good to me too. But if Bitcoin breaks down, what's a history typically of altcoin versus Bitcoin pairing? They typically go down more. So I'm very skeptical to see something like this. But if I was just looking at Cardano actually versus Bitcoin, this looks very obviously bullish. What else do we want to check out? I think we kind of checked out everything. This video is probably already too long as well. Yes, indeed it is. So I think it's time to go back. Maybe check out CMEs once again. Yeah, CME looks like a bouncy bounce too. It's just, how long does this bounce play out for, and how high do we get? Getting, as long as CME is below 96.25, it's just another lower high as well. And keep in mind that daily Stokes will turn to the downside, rejecting getting out of the the bearish control zone. So it's being stuck there if Bitcoin closes today's daily a little below 92.50. So anything below 92.50 on a 12-hour or daily closure does not look good overall. Still probably a small bounce, but my bias boner is a bearer as long as we're below essentially 95.50 on spot and 96.25 more importantly on CMEs. And then, of course, if Bitcoin were to reverse back above that area, above 95.50-ish region, I would look for another test back up to the blue box territory right here between 9,900 and 10,000, and things look nice and rosy again. But still, I don't look for a confirmed breakout or breakdown as long as we are essentially above if again on a daily closure 90 or just on a wick to the downside below 8,900, I can't get too bearish until we actually do something like that. And likewise to the upside, 9,900 to 10,000 is the harbinger for peace and prosperity up to the 11,000s once again. But I don't think it's really appropriate to talk about that right now today, just because we're obviously a lot more close to downside resolution right now, so it's more interesting and more relevant. Anyways, I think that's a good place to leave this one off. I'd like to wish you well once again. Take care, and until next time.